Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Am I Free to Go by the Soft Pink Truth. It's been about less than a full month since we had a brand new full-length album from the Soft Pink Truth aka Denier. With the release of Shall We Go On Sinning So That Grace May Increase, it was an album that definitely had the potential for something better, and I appreciated that it went into a different direction compared to pretty much anything he has in this project, but the final result was something that me personally didn't find all that intriguing. So at this point I was hoping for another sort of silly chaotic album like the direction it took with the album Why Do the Heathen Rage. But now Am I Free to Go is out and it's another covers album, and in this one he covers crust punk tracks. You have multiple crust punk covers over there from artists throughout the whole world, with artists like Disclose, Aus-Rotten, Doom with the track Polish Bastard, and also Discharge and Nausea and Gloom. Not knowing the actual tracks he covers is not going to change anything, because the direction he goes with those covers just goes into an entirely different realm of just music genres, and he basically makes them sound like completely different songs, with the only things being apparent and being the same are basically the lyrical content, because Denier also uses lots of different samples, and this album also has multiple artists performing in each track, just having their own unique characteristic with some vocals and some weird portions throughout this completely bizarre album. Now the thing is that this album is not something you can take entirely seriously, because most of the instrumentals here are completely silly, which is something that was definitely the case with Why Do the Heathen Rage, but in this case it made much more sense, as even though Denier has stated how much he likes black metal, he doesn't stand at all with the whole ideology that most of the artists over this genre portray, so it felt more appropriate sort of parodying this whole sound and make it sound as ridiculous as possible. However, this is not that much of the case with Am I Free to Go, since this album is obviously meant to be taken more seriously by Denier himself, who stands with a whole message of Antifa. Even the album by itself has the Name Your Price tag on Bandcamp, and every penny from this album goes to the International Anti-Fascist Legal Defense Fund. Now, I know that the Soft Pink Truth aka Denier, he has his own unique, really silly use of sound throughout this whole album, but you have examples like the Totalitär cover, which is a song that sounds so incredibly silly. It's a track that is so hard to take seriously. It basically sounds like a happy hardcore sort of song with its silly deliveries here and there. Now granted, the beat to it is really good, and especially the chorus to this thing, it's my favorite out of this entire album. There are so many fantastic elements to this song. However, when you have those air horns, when you have some weird sampling and some high-pitched vocals, it makes for a track that it's hard to take seriously, because it's just so silly. The other track that he understandably didn't make a serious cover out of this was the 9th track, Space, formerly occupied by an Amebix cover, but fuck that guy for being a Holocaust denier. Now, what does that mean? Basically, if you're not aware of the situation, Rob Miller, who was in the band Amebix, also made another project more recently called Tau Cross. In this project, when they were about to make their third full-length album on Relapse Records, then the contract with Relapse Records was removed after it was discovered that Miller thanked Gerard Menuhin in the liner notes, who was a Holocaust denier. Obviously obviously this really dumb move made for the band to disband, with Miller continuing the band with no other of the previous members, and so for that reason there was supposed to be an Amebix cover, but instead I think we get one of the greatest and one of the coolest songs over here, since this short 1 minute track has a very solid instrumental to it with those buzzing bassy noises here and there, and I like how he just ends the song just clarifying that there was supposed to be an Amebix cover over here, but fuck Nazis and fuck anti-Semites. The album overall is quite ridiculous and quite out there, as you would expect in a covers album from the Soft Pink Truth. However, I'm still slightly underwhelmed with the final result of this, as there are so many instrumentals to this thing that are weak in my opinion. They're just weak. My main highlight out of this album is the Aus-Rotten cover from Fuck Nazi Sympathy, which has those breakbeat moments with your standard amen break, and it has a very nice bass to it. Overall I like the vocals to this thing, their processing. It's a very solid track. And overall I like how this album ends up going to a more of a digital hardcore side. It has lots of old school breakbeats, also accompanied with some very nice bass sections that also feel old school, but the overall sound of this thing in some occasions just feels really bland and really weak, and even with some of the chaotic elements, they don't end up coming out all that flattering. I think some of the other good moments over here are the more straightforward and dynamic Polish Bastard, the Doom cover, and I also like Protest and Survive, one of the greatest crust punk songs from these charts, and it's a song that I like the beat to it. I think this track has the sickest beat and one of the greater vocal processing when it comes to those really sort of digital growly vocals, but the track just drags out for so long when half of the song is just those weirdly pitched female vocals, which I don't have an issue with the vocals by themselves. I think it's a nice touch, but they just go on, and the second half of this track just feels like it drags out for so long. I would like for this track to just go on with this sickening beat and have some progression into this part rather than having this dragged out portion. But yeah, the album towards half point through it, it gets into some moments that are quite forgettable, and some of like the beats and the sounds he uses, they're just not that good, especially with tracks like Respect the Earth, the Crude SS cover, and honestly the track Cybergod, the Nausea cover. I don't know why this track is like 7 minutes long, but it drags so long with those weirdly spoken word sections that some of them even use some sort of Google Translate vocals and they come out a bit cringy. Overall, when the beat comes to it, it just feels so out of touch with pretty much anything the track offers. It's basically a huge mess that doesn't lead up to anything sort of compelling in any way. I wanted to like this album more, but overall this is another album from the Soft Pink Truth that it had potential and just stayed at its potential. Overall, I think that it's better from Shall We Go On Sinning, so that grace may increase, but we're talking about a different direction in this album. When it comes to the cover albums, the chaos and the silliness to it didn't lead up to the greatest and the most fulfilling results, outside some great moments here and there. I'm going to give Am I Free to Go a 6+ out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.